Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to First and Ted, the TED Talks Ball edition with Aaron Lab again, my co-host, my weekly co-host. You'll find us here on Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Aaron, thanks for making it today, and looking forward to chopping it up with you. What else should people know? Like, tell them all about, I know you got the NWO on Mondays, you got Amin the Dream on Fridays. I think you mentioned to me you're doing a show with Larry Krueger tomorrow, possibly.
Yeah,
on Thursday,
me and Larry, it's I can't say it's up in the air. It just, he's a busy guy. So I pushed it to as far as it would work for him. So it's a possible stream with Larry Krueger tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's been a while. He's a busy guy, and I threw it out there, and he responded in kind, very graciously. And I even told him, I was like, hey, you want to do it? And then I said, I'll go as late as possible. So hopefully tomorrow at about 10 p.m., 10:15 p.m. Eastern. For all you West Coast guys, it's like 7 in the evening, so it's perfect for you. It's a little late for me, but, I'm not working at the moment. I'm back on the disabled list, so figured I'd give it a try. And then Friday, with me and Amin the Dream, and possibly having Rohan or another special guest on the stream. So hopefully you guys can tune in. It's weird. I'm one of those people that when I message people, I'm super, super careful not to be weird and creepy and overly needy and blast them with spam messages. So I'll message somebody and then forget about it, but no.
No, that's the way to be. No doubt about it. I did notice, when I was, had Larry on, he said likely that a certain time would work. And so even the day before, I'm like, well, is it okay to send out the promo, tweet to let people know the show's happening? So I hear you there. And I think, at least in my case, he did. So I'm sure he will for you too.
Yeah.
Especially since, if it was me, hey, you're the bigger name in the two here.
Right.
Speaking of which, Bryant Culp was here before we started to say Ted and Aaron, Batman and Robin, but I think he got that reversed. I think he meant you're Batman and I am Robin. But either way, we're sidekicks.
I was going to say I am the younger one, so technically I think you're Batman.
Oh,
and I'm Robin.
Well, I know, but Batman is the bigger presence, and you've got you've been doing this for a while. You know what you're doing here. I'm just kind of new to the scene.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Feeling my way around. Yeah. So also, Brandon Ferrigno. It's not like the
I
Hulk,
go with
right?
I can't. My
Ferrigno?
mom. I told my mom how to say it. She told me how to say it, but I can't remember. So
Brandon, spell it out for us in the chat. Give us the phonetics.
I go with the famous Ferrigno.
Ferrigno, like Lou?
Yeah, but it's in Italian. There's a different pronunciation, and because I'm half Sicilian, I should know this, but I do not. Some things I could pronounce that my mom will say it like this, and then other times I'm just I always tell Brandon, can I just call you the Hulk's last name? Because instead of trying to figure it out and jumping all over or falling over myself, let me just do it the other way.
Yeah, we could just call him Brandon Banner, like Bruce Banner, BB.
Or BF.
BF, there you go, yeah. And he wanted to know how your knee's doing.
I'm back on the disabled list. I got written up by my doctor. I guess I have some FMLA available for my job, so I'm able to be away without losing it, but we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic that I can get through this month, get the surgery, and get back by maybe say March. So,
well, fingers crossed for you.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, prayer. Definitely.
And maybe the physical therapy will work. So that's
I know all the people at the place. I've known them since I went there after my first shoulder surgery. So I was happy that they're all still there. It's pretty cool. Good. It's kind of weird. Nice. There's a girl that she always takes care of me. And she's cute, so it always helps. But she's also really a sweet person, and I know all the rest of them. So going over there is just like seeing old friends,
Nice. Well, that's a little silver lining. Then it sounds like.
I might buy them pizza or something one of these days.
And Brandon says that's not the way the Hulk says it. What does he say? Oh, I mean, he didn't really have too many.
He just growled.
Lines. Yeah, it's pretty much. Right on. Well, should we chat a little bit regarding the latest Niner news this week?
Sure. Go right ahead.
I think the biggest thing has got to be Jimmy G, is he done for the season? Because like I was flying this banner up till yesterday, right before the show with Grant, and it was Jimmy G done for the season, right? But now there's some pretty legitimate questions as to when or if Jimmy might actually be back for us.
Listening to Kyle Shanahan, it sounds like we'd have to make a pretty deep playoff run. But the way Kyle is sounding, it sounds like he's expecting Jimmy to be done, just because he would have to be ahead of schedule and he'd really have to be 100% to go. A lot of people are like, well, he's not a running quarterback, so we don't have to worry about that. And it's not on his planning foot, so we don't have to worry about that. Those are all true. But I don't know. It all depends. I mean, if Purdy's really doing well, then why bring Jimbo back? But at the same time, I mean, if you say we make it that far, it'd be nice to have a decent backup, even though, the playoffs have been Jimmy's kryptonite. But right now, I don't, as much as I would want to believe that it could happen, I just don't see it. Just because I don't know if the Niners make it that far, to be honest with you. A lot of people are making things out to be a foregone conclusion, and we really don't know. We have to really pause and wait and take things one game at a time, just like the professionals are supposed to. So we'll see.
I think that's a smart way to be, Aaron, especially considering that the Dolphins' pass defense was in the high teens or somewhere low 20s. So, we might see a defense or two, down the stretch in the playoffs that have a little bit better pass D than that. I think that, and also, defensive coordinators tend to, once they've amassed a certain amount of film on a guy, they start to figure out his tendencies and figure out how to counteract those. So that could happen. And I think the counter argument to that is, well, Purdy will be getting first team reps for kind of the first time maybe ever, or at least in quantity, a full week's worth. I think backups usually get about 5%, right? It's mostly scout team work. So you could make the argument that maybe the synergy that he develops with our weapons could help counteract the knowledge of his tendencies by defensive coordinators. Maybe it'll be interesting to see which one prevails, or if he just kind of stays the same, which could also happen, right? Those are the three sort of likely outcomes that I see.
If we're able to control that Bucs game with rushing the passer, I mean, I think even I underestimated Brady once again, and once again I was wrong. After he got that first touchdown last night, I'm like, they're winning. He's coming back. It's Brady. As much as I don't want to admit it. It'll be an interesting game because they have weapons and they have pretty good defense too. So, they could limit the Niners on offense, and on defense they could, and on the Niners when they play defense, they're not exactly going against a scrub team. Not that the Dolphins were, but we'll see. I mean, that Bucs offensive line is pretty beat up, so it'd be. I think the way Brock. Coach and Brock approach the game will be based on kind of how the game works out and the way it's going. I would love to see the running game kind of get back into the fold with this offense. One, because of Brock Purdy, and two, I mean, I think a lot of us are underestimating Jordan Mason, or a lot, not maybe us, maybe Kyle is just the way he's using him. I'd like to see more of him. I like to see less of the CMC in the middle and have him more in the passing game, and those are all topics that we can nail. But I think his play, Purdy, is dictated on what kind of like game starts to develop with these next couple opponents, and how they're approaching it. And I think that'll dictate exactly how we come out with our offense.
No doubt about it. Yeah, as far as like Jordan Mason goes, one of my shorts that I pumped out today, I did about 20 of them in the last 24 hours. One of them was somebody, I think it was Izzy, during the live stream of the game, was asking me why don't we run Mason more, and I said basically they don't trust rookies. Right?
Nope.
I mean, because Jordan Mason is better than Christian McCaffrey at running up the middle. And I said before, we got too far into the game, like, we should, if you want to run up the middle, use Jordan Mason, especially around the goal line. He's just more effective. And sure enough, they didn't most of the game. He only got a handful of carries. He did average 6.4 yards per carry, so that was great. But yeah, no, we can definitely talk about that. We can talk about Bucks. I mean, we got so much stuff to talk about. I mean, one thing I wanted to circle back with real quick was, along with the Jimmy G news, there was some other potential news with Baker Mayfield. I wanted to see where you were on that. Were you on the Baker bus, or were you, like the Niners, not putting in a claim for him?
To me, I would love to have a backup in case Brock goes down, because it's really Brock or bust. And that was the only line of thinking I was going with if they were going to make a claim on him. Anything else, or I mean, the way he's played in his career, the kind of person he is. Hell, they asked Brandon Ayuk the question, and Brandon Ayuk was all Team Purdy. So I think a lot of the players in the league kind of have a way about him and how they feel. And to me, it all came down to if they think that they are good, then don't make the move. But if they think that it could help them as far as just having someone who's played in the NFL and has had some success, you want to bring him in as a backup, then go for it. But apparently the Niners didn't feel that way. And I don't know if did they even make a claim, or did it get to him, or was it the Rams? The Rams actually got to it before. I think the Rams just signed him so he wouldn't go to the 49ers. So
yeah, well, and if they did, they made a mistake because we didn't put in a claim. So, yeah, I thought maybe the Rams might do it. I thought maybe the Seahawks might do it out of spite as well too. But I'm with you. Like I would have liked to have had him as a backup. I don't like the guy.
I don't like him either.
As a person, I don't like him. As a player, I don't love him either. But him or Josh Johnson, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
he's got some good physical tools, and who knows, maybe with the right system and weapons, and maybe Greasy could get something out of him that some of these others couldn't. But yeah, all things equal, I would have rather had him than not. And again, just in case Purdy gets injured, right? I mean, or in case Purdy, like the defensive coordinators do figure him out, and he just becomes completely ineffective, which is same difference. He's gone, or he's here and he can't do anything. What else? So we were talking a little bit about Purdy. I guess we could call him Mr. Relevant. Well, maybe not now, but at least for the game. He had a nice game. He made some nice throws. He had the touchdown throw to Juice and the touchdown throw to Christian McCaffrey. What were your thoughts, just like of the game, how he played?
I thought he played solid. He didn't do anything that was really super awe-inspiring to me. You can see how limited he really is as far as arm strength goes and velocity. So that's definitely something that concerns me going forward. I thought Jimmy had an issue with having a noodle arm, and this guy has even less of a noodle. He does add something that Jimmy doesn't have, and that's mobility. He does have a smaller frame, though, which concerns me about taking hits. And the Niners' offensive line has had a propensity lately for letting guys get blasted back there. I mean, absolutely just destroyed. So I thought he played okay. He didn't really make any game-changing mistakes. I mean, the interception he threw, he was trying to fit it in there on fourth down, and it didn't happen.
It was kind of like I said it was like an arm punt, basically.
Yeah, it was like an arm punt. I'm not overly impressed. That's why a lot of people who are like, oh, we're not going to miss a beat. I need to see a little bit more, because right now, personally, physically, I'm not really impressed with him. Mentally and athletically, as far as moving around, I'm very impressed by him. So in the end, this is a throwing league, and you got to make some throws. He made some throws that shocked me over the middle, fitting things into some tight windows. But he also missed some gimmies, to the sideline where he was, those are throws you got to make as a professional quarterback. The one thing I will say about him that I heard was he went to Brandon Ayuk and apologized for missing throws and told him, like, listen, I'm going to get better, I promise, and I'm going to feed you. So to me, that's a really good thing. And the fact that he was prepared, he took his job seriously, even though he's never playing, third string guy. That means he runs a scout team. He was prepared. That's one of the reasons they liked him. He was a 4-year starter in college. So he has some positive things, But personally, arm wise, I'm not too impressed, and I'm kind of worried. But maybe he just, Kyle figures out a way to get him moving on the run. A lot of screens, a lot of crossers, a lot of slants, or whatever. We could do it with Jimmy, and we can hide Jimmy's deficiencies and inabilities, and I guess we could do it, Brock. But it's going to be wait and see.
Yeah, I definitely liked him. When he threw the touchdown to Juice, I said something like, "Oh, look at that! We don't have trouble scoring in the red zone anymore." And he did have 2 red zone TDs. I liked that. I liked the throw to Kittle where he got blasted. More than that, I liked that he adjusted at the line of scrimmage, saw the blitz was coming, audibled Kittle into a hot route, and then took the big shot and delivered the ball anyway. But it does bring up a point. You brought up a good point about his smaller frame. You couple that with the guy's got kind of a pit bull attitude too. It doesn't seem like he shies away from contact in the least. So it's kind of like, go down sometimes, just, take one for the team and live to fight another day, hopefully, because a guy of that size, it's hard to see him lasting very long, taking big shots from NFL defenders who are big and strong and fast and highly talented. But I liked what I saw. I think one thing too that I really liked was his accuracy. So he's accurate. He's more mobile. Yeah, definitely not as big an arm, at least as far as we could tell, as Jimmy. So it'll be interesting to see as we start to, get him more comfortable with some deeper plays if he can actually make those throws. But my strong suspicion is that, Lance has the cannon and Jimmy is quite a bit less, and Brock Purdy maybe a little bit less than Jimmy G on the arm strength scale. So there's sort of a little trade-off there. But
my thing too is if Kyle Shanahan is proven one thing, he can scheme guys open. His predecessor, or his not a predecessor, his apprentice in the game was scheming guys open early on with the Dolphins. So scheme guys open, scheme guys wide open. If that's what you're able to do, then do it. Give this kid easy throws. The one thing I will say about him is he takes what the defense gives him. He is not a risk taker. He throws a check down quite a bit, which a lot of people say like, oh man, that's the dink and dunk ball. But 4 yards is better than no yards or an interception. So, I can't believe we're discussing this with an NFL quarterback about how we were trying to mask his deficiencies, but he is the third string quarterback.
He's the backup to the backup.
He's the backup to the backup. So like the fact that he performed decent, the Dolphins don't, my brother's like, our defense sucks. I'm like, not really. They look decent. The Dolphins have a good front. They were getting a lot of pressure on him. They have some issues in the secondary, but they're, Xavier Howard's been hurt, and they've had a lot of guys out of the lineup back there. But I thought they played relatively well. It's not like the Niners gouged them up and did a ton of like really big, yard take. Other than the McCaffrey cutback run. What did the Niners really do that really gouged the Dolphins defense? So the Bucs are even better. It'll be interesting to see how Kyle can manufacture some offense. To me, with this defense playing the way that it is, 24 points might be enough to win a game most of the time, at least with the rest of our schedule. Maybe. I say that, and then other teams are going to start putting. The Niners have the ability to get after the passer. Who knows? Kinlaw can be on his way back, so that might be even the Niners defense could be even better. But we'll see. But I think if they can manufacture some open receivers and if the running game can be somewhat effective, then it's going to help them a ton. The one thing I would like to see too, though, is I was listening to KNBR and the Locked On 49er podcast too, and they were saying how their teams are going to come after them just like the Dolphins did, the Bucs. Well, then screen these people to death. Screen pass, screen pass, screen pass. What do you do? How do you get a rush to stop over pursuing or over rushing? You just screen the mess out of them. You screen them. So hopefully the Niners maybe hit a couple screens here and there with Debo and McCaffrey, and then that gives makes the defense maybe not be so aggressive, because when the Niners were going after some people early on in the season, they were getting screened to death the first couple weeks. Every time the Niners would blitz, there would be an outlet. So we'll see. I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people are, because he's a 7th round pick. He was the last guy drafted. There's a reason for that. So I'm positive because I think the Niners around him are really good. But if you wanted my honest opinion, I need to see way more from this guy. So
I'm with you, and I would add to the screen. I would add, pitches, pitch outs, and outside runs,
yeah,
and then reverses also are helpful against the over aggressive defense. So those are sort of like three ways to combat that. The super aggressive blitzing pass rushes. We've got Dion in the house. He says, "What's good, Ted and Aaron?"
what's up, man?
Also, Lawrence here saying, "What's happening, Ted and Aaron?"
What's going on, Lawrence?
Baseball. Lawrence is coming on with me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m.
Nice.
Eastern. Yeah,
Probably
so
one of the more down to earth, cool guys. I like to watch his stream sometimes because he'll just be smoking a little bit and just talking. He's super chill. He reminds me of a lot of the guys that I grew up with. Just relaxed.
Nice.
Nobody's really over intense, So when I watch him, I'm just like, you know what? If I actually smoked a little bit, I would be sitting there with him. But no, he's very. I like listening to him. I'm definitely down with like more of the OG people on here. You know, some of these young people that like watch the Niners, and I'm like, a lot of the stuff they're talking about, they never actually saw in person. So anytime I can watch people that are at least close to my age and they're kind of, I don't know, it's just I have different taste as far as who people I watch.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I think Lawrence and I were on a show once a while back. I want to say I'm not going to say the name because I have a beef with the guys, but nonetheless, I'm pretty sure we were on a show together, and it was a lot of fun, and so I'm looking forward to chopping it up with him again tomorrow.
Definitely.
No doubt. What else? So you were talking about the Bucs, and you're talking about our defense. You're talking about winning with 24 points, and that's interesting because I had a banner that I made. If I could find it, I'm so terrible at this. Will either team score over 20 points?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, this is going to be the first full game. He's a starter. Defenses have a little bit of film on him. The Niners don't have Elijah Mitchell. So it's hard to say if either team scores over 20. I think my issue is, can the Niners hold off a late surging Tom Brady? Because if he's proven anything in his, 2+ decade career, is until that clock's double zeros or triple zeros or quadruple zeros, whatever you want to say. I watched that game last night. Like I told you, as soon as they got that first score, the Bucs, I'm like, he's coming back. There's no way they're going to stop. Momentum has a way with like him, and when Joe played, that like once their defense knows that they have absolutely no chance to stop it, it's like one of those things. It's an inevitable happening. So I think 24 points would be enough just because the offensive line is struggling. To me, the back end really has to play well in this game. Hufanga really has to be on his P's and Q's because, Tom Brady will take advantage of any mishap. He still has an arm for a 46, almost 46-year-old guy. So, the front, if the front can do their job and Bosa can be active and eat, then I think we have a good chance to hold them to under 20 points. The thing is, can the Niners offense score? It might, like I said, it could be a very close game. I think the Niners can pull it out. But I would have been more confident with Jimmy Garoppolo playing, to be honest with you. I never thought I'd say that. I just don't know what we're going to get from Purdy. So 24 points might be all the Niners got in them. So I guess it's up to the defense to make sure that they do their best to, stymie that Bucs offense. I mean, the Bucs got players. They have talent, but they've struggled. I mean, they're 6-6, I think, 6-7, 7-6, something like that. So it's not like they're a super great team. The X factor on that team is Tom Brady. So if the Niners can nullify him with the pass rush, then 24, score like 24-20 might be something reasonable. But for both sides of the ball, it's just, I really don't know right now. I'm more confident in the defense doing their job than our offense. So that is a really good question.
Well, I tweeted out something today about saying like the Bucs D is no joke, but their O-line kind of is. Because no Tristan Wirfs at right tackle, no, I think it's Alex Jensen. Is that the name of their center? Something Jensen.
Possibly.
Is their center. He's been out all season. and I believe their left tackle is out as well too. So they're pretty banged up on that O line. I think that could be our saving grace. Yet again, I mean, we've seen it a few times here, right? Cards were missing 4 out of 5 of their starters. The Rams had all backups in their interior offensive line week 4. The Chargers were missing both of their tackles. And even the Saints, they got relatively healthy to play us, but they were still missing their center McCoy. And obviously with the Dolphins, they were missing both of their tackles, Terran Armstead and Austin Jackson. That was why I titled my preview article last week "A Tale of Two Armsteads," because I thought that would be the difference in the game, and it certainly seemed to be that way.
Yeah, he was definitely moving that pocket. Armstead, it was nice to have him back. Man, I saw him. There was one bull rush where he had that tackle sitting right on top of the quarterback.
Well, yeah, and he almost got Tua on the one where Tua threw it up and Jimmy Ward intercepted it. That was
he was hanging on him.
All Eric Armstead. And then he also got the hold that negated a big run. The hold was on Eric Armstead. So he was pretty impactful. I couldn't believe somebody last week tweeted out, like, oh, I wonder if Eric Armstead will have any impact this week. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, this guy is a pillar of our defense and way better than anyone else we have at defensive tackle. And he eats double teams in the run game and in the pass game. He's just a force. Plus he bats balls. I mean, everything. So and then it got even worse. The guy after the game said, "Oh, he didn't do S during the game." I was like, "What are you watching?" Like at that point, you're just like, "This guy, you know."
People just go in with like a preconceived notion.
Yeah, you're either blind or you're just trying to troll me. But either way, you know, I'm not going to continue with this. No doubt about it. So let's see here. Should we talk more about the Dolphins game? I mean, there was still quite a bit more to go over from that game. I mean, I did notice there were some, you know, the O-line gave up quite a few pressures. McGlinchey, you know, as usual, was a weak link. I felt like Aaron Banks, though, maybe 2 weeks in a row, was a little bit, you know, less than what we've seen earlier in the season from him.
Yeah, I thought the offensive line played pretty weak in this game. There were times where they had good pass protection in the pass game, but I mean, the injury that happened to Jimmy was on a missed block, and it's just they've been like really hot and cold, but they've been like, especially with like you said, of McGlinchey. McGlinchey will. I love these people that try to either type up analytics or all this, that, or the other to try to disprove that he's not a very good offensive tackle, saying that he plays well on this many more snaps than he plays bad, but it's what the impact of the snaps that he doesn't play bad. So if he's given up only 4 pressures in a game, but he had, you know, 60 really good snaps against the defense, but those 4 to 6 were really, really absolutely impacting the game, then I think it's totally something. I don't think you can just put it under the rug because you're looking at the game film and saying, oh, he only gave up this in the whole game. But yeah, but what was the impact of this that he gave up? So to me, I just feel like they've been leaky at times, allowing guys to get killed. Even at times during the year with Jimmy Garoppolo, like the previous game where he was knocked to the ground, he was beat up. So to me, the offensive line definitely is something that is still concerning for me, but it's mainly McGlinchey and sometimes the interior, whether it's Brendel or what's his name, who's playing right now, because what's the hell? You guys know? No, his backup, because Burford was out.
Oh, Brunskill. Daniel Brunskill.
I mean, they're just they're not very good offensive linemen. So I mean, it's just, you know, you could really pick things apart, but I just think that the 49ers got to find a way to pass protect better to alleviate some of these massive hits that their quarterback is taking. It sucks though, because what that means is you got to have Kittle stay in and help McGlinchey block, which to me is a really bad thing, because Kittle should be the best friend of a young quarterback, right? He should be the guy that you go to when you need 4 to 6 yards. So offensive line needs to get it together. I thought that they played pretty poorly in this last game. Like I said, they had some plays where they protected well, but the Dolphins were blitzing a lot too. So, I mean, you could make an argument that the Dolphins' pass rush was pretty damn effective, but they can always get better, especially now that they have their third string quarterback in there. They really need to get better. So,
well, hopefully getting Burford back. Assumably he'll be back this week against the Bucs. That should help some. I will give McGlinchey some credit. You know, I like to beat him up just like we were just there most of the time. But I will give him credit on one of Purdy's sacks. It was Melvin Ingram was coming off the right edge, and McGlinchey kind of pushed him back around Purdy like he's supposed to do. And Purdy kind of like turned to his left and tried to bail out backwards and kind of ran right into Melvin Ingram, and where he should have climbed the pocket. It's kind of a typical thing you'll see from a young, mobile, or maybe inexperienced mobile quarterback, where they try and bail out backwards, and they should just climb the pocket and step up where there's an actual pocket for them.
Right.
It looked like he would have been okay if he had done that. So I'll give McGlinchey credit there. But yeah, he did get blown up on a lot of plays, and some plays where he missed blocks. I think the one where Jimmy got injured, it might have been Trent Williams. It was definitely his side. I don't know if it was Debo who was supposed to pick up the blitzer, or if Trent was, or if they shifted to the right. I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely was the guy closest to Trent Williams who came in and got Jimmy, or caused Jimmy to move off his mark at least. And then with the Jimmy injury, you know, the guy put his knee right in Jimmy's foot. Like, do you think that's a penalty? Or do you think that's just a normal play and, you know, going to the ground and his knee contacted first?
I think that was incidental. I don't think he was purposely trying to. This isn't Leonard Marshall trying to kill Montana or Jim
right.
or Jim Burt. This looked literally incidental. It could have been purpose, but I mean, on defense, your purpose is to try to hit a guy hard enough to knock him out of the game. That's kind of part of it. So Jimmy also held onto the ball way too long in that particular moment. He had two guys bearing down on him. He should have just thrown it out of bounds or threw it, you know, past the sticks towards the receiver.
Duck down and just take the sack,
right.
and
Instead
not
of
fight.
You're not a big dude, like,
Yeah, or strong dude.
or strong.
Yeah.
You're pretty fragile and pretty small.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was times where the quarterbacks kind of did it to themselves, but I just think the offensive line in general has been very leaky lately, and they need to clean that up. I mean, the Bucs have a pretty good defense, so if you want to have Josh Johnson playing in the first or second quarter next week, keep blocking the way you've been blocking. You need to shore things up.
Yeah, no, especially that defensive interior for the Bucs with Vita Vea there. I mean, he's arguably the best defensive tackle in football, or certainly on that short list of best tackles. I want to call out Bryant Culp. He says, I think if Tom Brady said he wants to be a 49er, I don't think the organization can ignore that.
I think they could. I think he's going to be 46 next year. And I don't think if you do that, that means you trade the young quarterback. And you're saying to your organization, like, your fans, like, whatever. It's just a couple of high first-round picks, and, you know, we just wasted the young career of a guy that we haven't really given a chance to yet. I understand if you're going, you know, Super Bowl or bust, but this team has a pretty decent core, and, I mean, they're going to be here for a couple more years, so as much as I would love to say yes to that, he's going to be 46. Like, do you really want to throw away Trey Lance and everything that you put into him for one shot with a 46-year-old quarterback who might not even want to be there, or maybe not want to, you know, is his mind really going to be into it going into next year for everything that he's going through this year? If this was 3 years ago and the Niners were built similar, you know, with the type of roster that they have, then I would have been absolutely all for it. But I don't know. It's 3 years later. He's going to be almost 40. Think about that. 46.
I think he'll be 46 in August, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll be 43 in like a couple of days. So I know how I feel. I'm not a high-level athlete, so I understand what Bryant's going for. It's Super Bowl or bust. You know, you just want it so bad because we haven't had one in so long. But I just think for a long-term, solution, I think that would be a really bad move, because you'd have to trade the kid. You'd be telling them they have no confidence in him. You're going to sit him another year? Really? Like, I just don't see it.
I'm with you there, 100%. Ryan from No Border Sports checking in says, "What's up, gentlemen?
What is going on, my man?"
Thanks for coming in and watching." So, and then Bryant called himself out. Oh, here he said, "Where'd it go? All right, I can't even find it." Oh, here we go. He said, "I know I questioned Armstead." So, that wasn't you I was talking about, Brian. There was somebody else who not only questioned before the game, but then doubled down after the game and said that he didn't do much. He's one of these guys that is still complaining about the DeForest Buckner trade, and wants to say that it was Eric Armstead for DeForest Buckner when really it was a whole army of guys that we kept along with Eric Armstead. Defoe's a better player, but he also got 23.5 mil cap hit that year, whereas Armstead's was 6.5 and Jimmy Ward's was 3.5. That gave us 13.5 more mil to spend on a bunch more guys. I know it's 2020. A lot of people got injured that year, but when we made the trade, it made sense. We were trying to run back our 2019 crew as much as we could, and we did a pretty good job of it other than Emmanuel Sanders and the guys who retired, Joe Person and Joe Staley. So, and then I guess Richburg was injured, but he was still on the roster.
I see the question from Bryant. He says, that's the thing. Why couldn't Lance sit behind Tommy? That'd be 4 years he hasn't played. Almost. Full.
Yeah.
He didn't
Not
play
a full season, right?
He didn't play in 2020. He didn't play in 2021. Barely. He barely played in 2022. So now you're going to sit him out 2023 while he's healthy and while he's affordable. And then if you don't win, now you don't know what you have, and you're forced to pay him without ever really seeing him do anything, because you have to take advantage of the window of him being a low-cost player. That's why I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo comes back. I think you bring in another veteran next year. I don't know who that veteran is. There's good backups out there to be had that you can have for a couple games, and
maybe someone who fits the system a little bit better too.
Yeah, like I really liked the quarterback from he was on the Chargers before their young
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great backup, to be honest with you. He's mobile, and I thought a lot of people put him to go to the Niners last offseason anyways, before they brought back Jimmy.
I was one, especially when we got Anthony Lynn, who had coached him.
Right.
Yeah, I saw an obvious connection there, for sure.
In a vacuum, you could say, yeah, bring Brady in and let's go for it. But if you look at it through a salary cap and a roster building and sustaining a winning window, that would be a huge mistake. Because you have to know what you have. The Niners literally know. Next year is so crucial for Trey Lance. He has to play well, or at least show that he's trending in the right direction, because they have an option, or they have a decision to make with his contract. So that's the reason why I'm all for going for it too. I don't think you guys understand, but this is 3 years past when I wanted to do this. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, why are we bringing in these haggard-ass old quarterbacks? There's no guarantee that they're going to win it. There's no guarantee that someone like Aaron Rodgers, he's a little fragile too. I mean, can he take a beating behind this offensive line? I get one. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would probably be the more likely one that I would say, yeah, pull the trigger on him. But he's a cancer. He's not a good person. He's a powder. Do you think his ego and Kyle Shanahan's ego could get along? Do you think Kyle Shanahan's ego and Tom Brady's ego can get along? Tom Brady or Kyle Shanahan has always had quarterbacks that he knows he can, kind of dominate a little bit and have a little bit of an authoritative kind of like, I'm standing over you type thing. You bring Brady in and you try to subject him to that Kyle Shanahan tomfoolery, and he might slap him across the face. I understand it though. I would love in a what's the word I'm looking for? In a parallel universe, I think that would be something that I would want to do too. But I just think it's past that time.
Brian asks, how long did Aaron Rodgers sit? Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 seasons behind Brett Favre, but he also played quite a bit more at Cal than
Yeah.
Lance did at North Dakota State.
And he wasn't he wasn't the third pick in the NFL draft either.
Right.
He was a bottom. Go ahead.
He was bottom of the first round, yeah, like 26th or something like that, I want to say. 25th, 26th, 27th.
You drop somebody in the top 5.
28th.
You're expecting him to be an all-pro, franchise-changing player. And they had to readjust Aaron Rodgers' throwing motion too. But yeah, like you said, he played way more, and he played at a Division 1 school.
Right. Back when it was the Pac-10.
There's a lot of variables of why I think he needs to play next year. But like, who knows? Maybe Bryant's right. Maybe the Niners go out and get a veteran. With this organization, Ted, I really have absolutely zero idea what they're going to do sometimes.
Well, my one counterpoint that I would offer to the then we have to pay him thing is if he sits, the whole time he's on his rookie deal, then you don't really have to pay him because no one else is going to pay him either. So the market drops. You might be able to actually get a deal on him to where, you could sign him cheap. But I don't think that's what you should go for. I'm with you overall. We don't want him sitting next year. But if he somehow did, might be a silver lining to it, is that you actually might get him on a reasonable deal because no other team's likely going to drop a bunch of money on a guy who's unproven either.
But I know teams that would want to go, they would take a shot at him for sure.
Yeah.
They would want a young quarterback who's got an electric arm and he's mobile, who just needs reps. Really, he needs reps. He needs to play.
Not to be run up the gut all the time.
Yeah, let's not do halfback dives up the middle with our starting quarterback, please.
Exactly.
I love you, Brian Culp, by the way. You know that. All love.
No doubt about it. No, it's good.
One of my biggest supporters on my channel. I appreciate you.
And on these things, none of us are authorities. Any of us could be wrong. We're just giving an opinion, and we'll see how it turns out. Speaking of which,
I'm not on my pulpit. Definitely not on my soapbox for sure.
No, that's why I like you. So speaking of Lance, do you think any chance he'll be back? This season, this postseason.
No
matter what. Purdy gets injured. Josh Johnson's the starter.
I just think with that injury, I think you need as much time to recover from that as possible. Wouldn't you think, though, with a fracture and some ligament damage, too, that was sustained through that kind of fracture? And plus, he's mobile.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kyle's made it sound like, and Lynch, that it's not going to happen.
Well, did you hear this week what he said, though, on Monday?
No.
They asked him again, and now that, Jimmy, because on Monday we thought Jimmy was out for the season, right? It was supposed to be Liz Frank and, absolutely no chance coming back even for the postseason. And Kyle said, well, I mean, if he could be back and be healthy, hell yeah, I'd want him. But he's not healthy now. That's what I've been told. And he's not healthy now is what I've been told. And so it's like he said now, which means if he is healthy, because think about the playoffs aren't for 6 more weeks, right? So a lot could happen. I mean, he would have to start practicing pretty soon, I would think.
Yeah.
But and that's the whole thing. Like, is he healthy? Can he protect himself? And is he in enough of game shape, both physically and mentally, that he could come in and make a difference?
Right.
Yeah. And by then, Brock Purdy could be playing even better. So who knows? It might be a moot point. But if Brock Purdy's arm continues to be an issue or his health. I just think if it's Josh Johnson or Trey Lance, I just think you take your shot with Trey Lance as long as there's no chance of him injuring himself further.
All I got to say is if he gets re-injured,
then it's going to be
you're going to lose him for next year too.
Well, yeah, and then there's going to be the whole RG3 comparison. And, yeah, I know that Collins, but I think also that's one of the reasons Kyle has not wanted to say, "Oh, he'll be back." I think it also is he didn't want to answer the questions every week in press conferences, because it would come up every week otherwise. So he just kind of squashed it. And I think also he doesn't want to be seen as pressuring Trey Lance to come back.
Especially after the whole Mostert fiasco, saying that the Niners forced him to play.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, come on, kid, we need you.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying he will be back, but I wouldn't be shocked. We'll see how things play out in the next few weeks. I think will tell us everything we need to know if he's practicing or not. What else? So as far as
we should let the stream know that we need to get that overlay that says First and Ted.
Well, I'll just talk to Roscoe's about it.
I'll have to talk to you have to let me know who he is. 'Cause I need to ask him about some things too.
Yeah,
I'm sick of bothering Jesse all the time for it.
No, definitely.
Just random stream. We're talking about overlays and backgrounds and stuff.
No, yeah, it's good stuff.
What do you think, guys? First and Ted sounds good, right? I think it sounds great.
Yeah, that's what I had in the banner starting the show.
Sweet.
And I'm a big fan of it. Here it is here. First and Ted with co-host Aaron Labigan.
I love it. I amaze myself sometimes how creative I
am. Don't hurt your shoulder, pat yourself on the back there.
Yeah.
We don't need 2 injuries.
I used to work at a bakery with one of the bakers, and he would always take one of the oven mitts, and he's like, I got to tap myself on the back because no one else is. So
yeah, if no one else is, right. I mean, you got to do it.
And I used to tell him, hey, that scoring knife that you score the bread with before you put it in the oven? I said, stick it in my back. I said, that's where it belongs anyways, Yeah, we were idiots. That's when you work overnight and you're up at like 2, 3 in the morning. That's how you just become ridiculous.
Brutal. Yeah, I can only imagine. Actually, I remember I worked at a produce distributor. I won't name the name. But I remember I got there at like 3 or 4 in the morning and was like sorting out like apples and peaches and I got good at picking out good fruit though. That's for sure.
I had a friend that was working at or a coworker that was working in a warehouse. Now he's really lazy and he doesn't like to work and he's young, but he was telling me how they had you pick however many hundreds of items you had to pick, fill orders for the warehouse, and they had to be done in like 35 minutes.
Holy smokes. And
you had to go in these long freezers, and stuff was tipping all over, and it was just like, oh, hell no. So I don't miss that at all.
That sounds pretty bad. So let's see here. As far as we've talked a little bit about the Bucs. We've talked a little bit about the Niner Dolphins. Should we go over anything more from that game? I mean, there's Christian. We talked about Christian McCaffrey and Mason a little bit. Obviously, McCaffrey was huge. He had the touchdown. He had lots of yards. Maybe not the most efficient running it up the gut, but pretty much every other way, I was pretty happy with this game.
I don't really have any other complaints. I mean, considering what happened, I thought the quarterback played reasonably well, considering who he is and what he's about and what kind of preparation he's had. And I thought the defense was dictated to early. I thought that they could have really gotten blown back, had the doors blown open on them. But for whatever reason, too, it was ineffective. But I thought the Niners' defense late in that game actually was the reason. I thought the pressure or the sacks by Bosa, all 3 of them, were all game-affecting plays. I don't care what Emmanuel Ocho says. He just likes to be the smartest guy in the room because he talks really well with his overly expressive teeth when he talks. What a freaking chode. But no, I my brother's watching the game too. He's a Dolphins fan. I was like, they got the sack on 3rd down. They got another sack on 3rd down. And then the one on even though they were down with the field goal, they were still down a decent amount of points. They proved early in the game that they could take one throw and go 70 yards. So it's not like the Niners were impervious to giving up a big play. And Bosa came through again in the clutch. And Greenlaw, I'm going to tell you something. One of my new favorite players on this team, even though he's a freaking head case, which is kind of why I identify with him because I'm kind of crazy too in my real life, is Greenlaw. I think Greenlaw is slowly starting to kind of grow on me more than Fred Warner. He just makes impactful plays, and he's a hard hitter, and he's got an edge to him. He's a little bit of a bully, which I love. And then the other thing I will say is, as much as I love Hufanga, my brother said he kind of reminds him of Diggs from the Cowboys. He can make some plays, but sometimes he gets caught trying to guess things. The fact that he went for the under route on that post where the corner was playing outside leverage. Now, corner plays outside leverage. He means he's pushing the wide receiver to the inside, which means the safety's supposed to, you know, whatever. And why he went for the underneath route when there was decent amount of coverage there already. So like there were some good things and there were some bad things. I think like I said, you better be on your P's and Q's against Tom Brady. Even though he's old, he can still sling it. So I think overall the game though, I was pretty satisfied, I'd say, from probably the third quarter on.
Yeah, no, Dre Greenlaw was huge. He had the play of the game. In my opinion, the pivotal play of the game was the pass breakup of Gesicki on 4th and 2.
Yeah. Can I say something about that? I know a lot of people were like iffy and like, oh, he caught it. If you're going to the ground and you touch the white of the sideline, you have to have full possession. The fact that the ball was kind of rolling up his arm or whatever, people are like, well, it didn't hit the ground. It doesn't need to hit the ground for it to be incomplete. Yeah. You have to have made the catch. As you're hitting the ground, the ball can't keep moving and, you know, look like it's going to be dislodged. It has to actually, you have to secure it as you hit the white. You can't hit the white and have the ball drifting up your body. So I know the coach and everybody on Miami was, you know, losing their mind, but I think it was the right call.
Yeah, no, Ryan was there with me on the live cast, and as soon as I saw the replay, I was like, that is not a catch. They are going to overturn this. That's the play of the game. The game's, you know, more than likely over. Of course, it wasn't quite. We still had to put together a nice drive there for the field goal, which I think pretty much iced it when we got the 9-point lead. That's when I started to feel real good about
props
things.
To Robbie Gould for coming through in that game.
Whew, yeah, good as gold for sure in that game. Interesting on that drive before the 4th and 2, you know, that they went for it on 4th and 1 on their 19-yard line. I thought that was a super ballsy move by Mike McDaniel. They went ahead and converted it. They were driving down the field, and I was saying to Ryan and Izzy, I was like, oh, guys, you know, if they end up winning this game, we're never going to hear the end of this about how, you know, the big balls on Mike McDaniel and how Kyle is too conservative and doesn't go for it enough. And, you know, sure enough, Mike McDaniel went to the well one too many times on that 4th and 2, and it bit him. You know, he should have taken those 3 points for sure. Had it be a 3-point game instead of a 6-point game, and us have the ball. But you know, ultimately, it was interesting. There were some other things too I noticed during the game. I don't know if you saw, but there was like a couple times where their players tried to like steal our guys' signature like moves, like Christian. Yes, well, River Craycraft did it to Kittle, and then Kittle did it back. That was the best part. Was, you know, we were it was that next drive after the 4th and 2. We were driving down. Debo had 2 9-yard catches, and one of them he had a ton of yak after contact to get the 9 yards, and it was like 3rd and a yard, or maybe it was more like 3rd and even half a yard. And, Purdy did a little play fake and he threw it to Kittle, and Kittle got the first and he got up, and I'm like, oh, he's going to do it to Craycraft. He's going to do it. And he got up and he did it. I was just like, yes. It's so,
I just don't understand. It's like they haven't earned the ability to be that team yet.
No, exactly.
At least the Niners have had 2. I told my brother, I was like, that's the one thing I said, that you got guys in your team talking. We've had 2 deep playoff runs. We were in the Super Bowl. And we have a lot of the same guys in certain key positions. The Niners have a reason that they could be a little cocky or have a little bit of an ego. I think one of the reasons that we ended up winning that game, and I told my brother, I was like, the Niners have been there in these bigger games. Dolphins still are learning. They have the ability to play well. They have the players. They're not bereft of talent. They just don't have the experience. So I feel like maybe the game itself was big for them. Maybe it was big for Tua. Tua is a very accurate thrower of the ball, and he's been pretty good this year. So, you know, sometimes the stage can be too bright. I mean, people talk about how the Bills quarterback, anytime he's in a stressful game, his eyes are bugging out of his head. He looks super scared. And then you look at Mahomes, and he's just relaxed and chewing on his mouthpiece and looks like he could care less. So I think that had a part to do with it too. I think the Niners, that's why I don't understand why you're stealing all our moves, doing all our celebrations when you're finally Go
The other
ahead.
one was, did you see Wilkins? Christian Wilkins did the Bosa shrug too.
Yes.
So I mean, the disrespect from these guys, and the funny thing is, it seemed like the game kind of turned on that. Like it wasn't long after Craycraft or however you pronounce his name, Craycraft.
Craycraft.
After he did it,
I called him Craycraft when it first happened years ago when they signed him.
yeah.
And I had a freaking viewer be like, "Bro, you completely butchered that last name." I'm like,
Oh, jeez. It happens all the time with new players. And anyway, and so it was just like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The gall of these guys. And like I said, it seemed like it really bit them in the butt, too. That
Good.
after that, the game flipped, and that's when we really took it to them, because it was a touch and go game, almost that whole game. And then all of a sudden, we just ran away with it there at the end, not long after River Craycraft did that. So
They had
good
to
job,
learn their
River.
lesson.
Yeah, good job, River. Way to fire up the opponent. Like it was in-game bulletin board material, if you will.
Yep.
So yeah, that was awesome. So then other weapons, yeah, I mean, I definitely worry about Ayuk with Purdy with that lack of arm strength. I felt like he was already going to suffer some with Jimmy. Seemed like they were just starting to get into a good rhythm together. So hopefully that's not the case. I know Purdy did go up to Ayuk apparently and say, "Hey, I'm gonna work on this with you, and I will improve. I will get."
He
better.
said he wants to. He's going to feed him.
Yeah, good.
I hope he
needs
does.
to be fed. He's hungry. And then Debo had the quad contusion, but I didn't really see it there. I mean, it's crazy that he was a game time decision, but
He's still a little slow.
yeah,
He's not quite the explosive guy that he was last year in the run game and in the pass game. I don't see the same veracity that he plays with, but it's okay. I mean, have it if we make it into the playoffs, show out then. Do what you got to do. Don't do it now. Pace yourself. We got a lot of weapons. We should be fine. So
well, definitely in the run game. I mean, he hasn't done much for a while in the run game, other than that one reverse against the Cards in Mexico City. That was the one sort of shining light, and that's not even really a run. It's not a run out of the backfield. So. But you know what I will say about running backs? We talked a little bit about CMC and Mason. I tell you what, I mean, I certainly didn't miss Jeff Wilson Jr. in that game. Like I know most of us that I've talked to about this is sort of like, yeah, we liked the trade, we didn't love it, we didn't hate it. And I'm not saying I love it now either. I mean, I think that was an anomaly for him to play poorly like that. But it was nice that head-to-head he didn't, show us up. I was worried he was going to show up and run hard.
I thought him and Mostert were going to have both really good games.
Yeah.
And they didn't run the ball at all in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Mostert was okay. He just didn't get very many carries, right?
He doesn't look like the Mostert was with us.
No, and he got some called back, too. I think he was the big one, was the hold on Armstead that got called back. So that would have made their running total look a lot. But who knows? Maybe that run was because of the hold. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. Well, hey, we're coming up on an hour here. I know, it's late there on the East Coast. I'm sure you got to grab some grub, some dinner, usually after the shows. But anything else you want to touch on before we go? Do you want to change your rest of the season predictions since, no more Jimmy G? Is that a downgrade for you?
A lot of people have us going for, seems like 4-1 down the stretch. Seems like a lot of people picked the Dolphins game to lose, right? Well, we didn't lose it. We have the Bucs, we
got the Bucs, the Seahawks, the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Cards. So,
I think 3-2. I think 3-2 is more of is a possibility in these last
11-6.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. I think maybe dropping a game to, say, the Commanders, maybe.
They look good.
And losing in Seattle.
Yeah.
Maybe not getting our doors blown off, but just, that's an interesting place for a quarterback that's a 7th-round pick.
Yeah.
Who almost didn't get drafted. So
unless the faithful can travel there, which we typically haven't done that well, but maybe this year will be different. I don't know. I'd feel better about it if they had a little bit of a worse record, but they've been doing well, so I think they're. I can't call them the 12s, but their fans might show
the 11th
up.
and a halves.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. Also, while we're talking about the Commanders, I made a comparison when I was talking to Grant yesterday. I said I thought, and it's not just QBs, but really the teams remind me a lot of each other now. But that Heineke and Purdy are a lot similar as quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been they've been given that comparison. They gave a pro comparison to Purdy, and they said it was Christian Ponder, which I was just like, oh, God, he was so bad.
No. Wasn't he the Vikings QB?
Yeah, he was a Vikings QB. Just his physical attributes, arm strength, mobility, size. So, do you have somebody banging on your roof over there?
There is, there's somebody hanging Christmas garland outside. So.
Oh, okay. I was just like, is somebody telling him he needs to end his stream? Like,
no, that's not it. No, there would be screaming to go with that. No, there's garland for the holidays.
A little bit of like bunting or decorations outside.
Yeah, like just some pine boughs, if you will.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time going forward because we're down to our third string quarterback. Like I said, a lot of people are really thinking like this is going to be a walk in the park and it's not going to be any drop off. And I just don't see that yet. I don't have that confidence. I mean, I keep telling people he was a 7th round pick. It's not that easy to just say, well, he plays a lot like Jimmy. He has a lot of the same characteristics and he doesn't have a big arm. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Just because somebody looks like somebody and has, similar stats and their pass chart looks similar. I want to see how this kid performs. Like I said, there's a reason why he's a 7th round pick. There's a reason why he almost went undrafted. So I want to be confident and I'm taking it one game at a time, but for everybody to come out and kind of be like, it's not a big deal and that we're going to be just fine. Let's relax a little bit. Everybody chill. Stop being all caught up in being a fan and being, overly cocky. Just relax. I don't know. I was getting a little bothered. You watch people on Twitter, even like national analysts are like, yeah, the Niners aren't going to miss a beat. I'm like, yeah, they might a little bit,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, it's, I hate to say it, but I think we might miss Jimmy G a little bit.
I think so too. And I have a feeling we might see it in this next game. And I'm just saying, if it does happen, I'm not going to tell you I told you so, because I'm not the kind of person, but just everybody be prepared. Be prepared mentally.
It's literally David versus Goliath. So.
Literally, he's physically smaller than him, and he's got the resume versus a guy that may have never touched the field if it wasn't for the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo. So.
Yeah. Now the one thing I will say is that 22 or 23 years ago, there were people saying, "Well, Tom Brady, he was a 6th round pick." So, I think, I'm not going to say he's going to be Tom Brady.
Right. I had some people doing that during the game. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Here we go.
But he might be, better. The draft is imprecise, especially after the 4th and 5th rounds. It's all just kind of flyers at that point. So. Maybe we got lucky with one. We'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't. Don't bet your rent money is what I always like to tell people on Twitter. And they're like, "Well, I don't pay rent." I'm like, "You don't get it. It's just not
mortgage,
funny
rent, whatever."
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not as funny if you say don't bet your mortgage. It doesn't sound as dire, right?
Just don't be overly cocky and confident with a guy that's like I said, he probably wouldn't have gotten a chance this year. He was running scout team all year. Guys, like, come on, let's relax a little bit.
No doubt of that. Cool.
Whatever.
Cool your jets. Well, Aaron, thanks a lot for coming on today and sharing your insight and wisdom. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. I'll look forward to catching up with you next week. And if I get a chance, I'll be out of town on Friday for your Friday show. But if I get a chance, I'll try and tune in.
Rock and roll, man. That's awesome.
Otherwise, have a great week. Go Niners. Beat the Bucs. I think I'm saying pillage the Bucs is my little weekly term. So I think I was going back and forth between that and scuttle, and I went with pillage. So there we go.
I think pillage sounds more piratey.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, anybody can scuttle a ship, right? That's true.
Right.
But pirates, yeah, good. I'm glad I went with it.
Nice.
I'm glad you approve. Well, Aaron. Anyway, have a great night. Go Niners.
Go Niners. See you guys. Beat Jeff.